Hello there, good morning, and a very warm welcome to our webinar today, all about the HMRC Secure Mailbox in Sage 50 Payroll. My name's Duncan, I'm your host and presenter, and I am on my own today, so I will also be answering any questions that you may have. So we'll start things off with a look at the setup of the HMRC Secure Mailbox. So this is a mailbox built in to Sage 50 Payroll, and we'll walk you through the main e-submission settings. I'm going to demonstrate how it works. So we're going to check for some of the common notice types. It tends to be tax code notifications. We'll look at how to view those notices and how to apply them directly to employees within your payroll. And then we're going to take a quick look at the secondary use of the mailbox, which is submitting P46 car forms. If you provide company cars as a taxable benefit and you still record that benefit on form P11D. We'll finish the webinar with 4 of our top tips to make using the mailbox that little bit easier and smoother. And then, as I say, I'll be able to stick around at the end to pick up any questions that you may have submitted. So let's get things underway by looking at setting up the HMRC Secure Mailbox. So this is a way of retrieving tax code and student loan notifications, as well as other notices directly in Sage 50 Payroll without having to log in separately via the HMRC online services. And in order to use it in Payroll, you will need to have saved your user ID and password in your e-submission settings. It will be the same details, the exact same details you use for FPS submissions. So all of you should have already completed that step. But if you still receive paper notifications for tax code changes from HMRC, what you'll also need to do to use the integrated mailbox is to enable electronic notifications. Now, if you already get your tax code notices online, and maybe you're viewing them through your HMRC online account, you're already set up for this. But if you do receive them in the post, what you will need to do to enable electronic documents is to log in to your HMRC PAYE online account. You'd find the area to view tax codes or notices and set up alerts. And then in the notice preferences section, you'll be able to change how you get your tax code and student loan notices, and you'll be able to set them to receive them online. So you'd log into your HMRC account from a browser to set this up. But as I say, if you already get them online, you'll be able to get them directly in your software via the mailbox. So we're going to start by looking at your e-submission settings, and I'll give you a quick explanation of what they're all used for. So you can find these in Payroll by going to your e-submission tasks and then selecting e-submission settings. So it's the settings such as user ID and password, as well as some up-to-date contact details that you'll need to enter there. So I just want to show you that in a demo. So I am just going to bring these slides down. And I'm going to show you my e-submission settings in Sage 50 Payroll. So I'll just start by clicking e-submissions here in the bottom left corner. And then you'll find your settings as the first task on the left-hand side. Once you're into these settings, it'll display your company name and your PAYE reference, which you'll have saved in your company settings, as well as the user ID and the password that you use to log in to PAYE online. And if you're making FPS submissions, there should be no need to change any of these details here, as the mailbox will use the exact same login details. As you can see, there are some tick boxes on the settings tab. So there's a box you can tick to automatically check for new messages at the point you open the secure mailbox. So if you want to save time to get into the mailbox, you can check for notices on demand by clicking a new mail button. But if you want it to always kind of connect and check for new notices at the point you open the mailbox, you can tick this box just here. There's a setting to clear the P46 car flag on submission. So if you use the mailbox to submit a P46 car, you can have that flagged as no longer required once it's been sent. And there's also an option if you want to view an FPS checklist before sending FPSs. So if ever you've switched that off and you want to see it again, you can tick the box just here. As well as the settings, you also have contact details. So it is worth checking these are up to date, particularly if you've had change of staff or anything like this around your payroll. So it's the name and contact details that you would enter here. And the email address entered in your settings is the one used for confirmation of successful submissions. So definitely worth checking that is up to date. And if you are an agent submitting on behalf as clients, you would tick the box to submit as an agent, and you would enter your details in this section on the right. So that's basically where to find the e-submission settings. There should be nothing you need to change here unless you want to automatically check for new messages when you open your mailbox. I'm going to leave that switched off for now. So if there were any changes, I could save them. And then to come out of these settings, I would click close. So that's everything set up in my software and ready to go. If you want to read more about these settings and what the mailbox actually does, I have linked to our support article for more information. But what we're going to show you next is how the mailbox works. So I've got a couple of demonstrations lined up for you. I am doing this as a simulation, so some of the screens might be very slightly different to what you would see in a live environment. We're going to try and show you a number of different notice types and how those changes can be applied directly to your employees. Now, before we go into the demo, let's just have a run through of the different forms you can receive into the secure mailbox. So I've got them listed here on the slide. The first two are tax code notices. So P6 and P6B is a notice to an employer to change an employee's tax code and often includes previous pay and tax for the current tax year. So these are in-year forms. You receive them at any point during the tax year, and the changes will be effective from the date on the notice. A P9 is also a tax coding notice, but these changes take effect at the start of a new tax year. So typically you'd receive these in February or March, and they would take effect from the 6th of April of the following tax year. So those ones would not contain any previous pay and tax because they are effective from the start of a new year. The next ones in this list are student loan and postgraduate loan start and stop notices. So this is HMRC telling you to start or stop student loan deductions from an employee, and it would also contain details of the student loan plan type, which will determine kind of the thresholds for when those deductions are taken. And you can get responses to any NI number verification requests that you've submitted. So you can get a reply that will confirm a national insurance number that you're using, or another notice in response to an FPS if an NI number might need changing. So those are examples of forms you can receive. We're going to focus on the tax code and student loan notices, and these can then be retrieved directly into your payroll software. So I just want to show you this in action. Let's just bring the slides down again. And I'm going to go to my payroll tasks and just set my next pay date. It's actually going to be the 31st of January. That's my monthly pay date. Now, to access the secure mailbox, you would either go to the e-submissions tasks and click on the second task in the list to open your IR secure mailbox. Or if you're a process map user, I'm just going to switch this on from my payroll tasks. If I go to view, change view, and I select process map. Just going to resize that slightly. You can see there is an option for the secure mailbox towards the start of your payroll process, as you would typically check for new notices before you process the pay. So if you've got the process map open, you can access the mailbox from here. If not, you can go to e-submissions and you can click IR secure mailbox. Now, because mine wasn't set up to check automatically, it's not showing anything in the mailbox right now. So what I need to do is to click the New Mail option. Now, in the live environment, you'll see a progress bar as your mailbox connects to your online account, and it retrieves the latest notices from HMRC. In this example, I have received new notices. So I have one P6 notice, which is a change of tax code, and I also have one SL1 notice, which is a student loan start notice. So you can see both of these shows the main detail and the employee that it applies to, the date that the notice was issued, and then to view the details, it's just a case of selecting it, and you can click Open, and then you can see the full detail on screen, so which employee it applies to, tax code that we need to change it to, where applicable, previous pay and tax, and then we have an effective from date. So this has actually come through to a recent starter who joined us without a P45, and because we submitted their starter details in our FPS, HMRC have been able to send us some further information on the tax code they want us to use, and in this case they've also provided previous pay and tax. Now, because you've received it in your payroll software, it does mean you're able to apply this change directly to the relevant employee. You would do so by clicking the Apply button. You do have the option of printing the notices first if you wish to. So you've got this print option at the top, but I'm going to go ahead and apply these changes. I'm then going to click Yes to continue. And you'll see we've got confirmation that that change has been successful and will be effective from the 6th of April. Now, I'm also going to deal with the student loan notice while I'm here. So just the one, I'm going to double click it this time to view the details, being told to start student loan deductions from the 1st of January for this employee. And it says the plan type that they're on is plan number 1. So again, I could print the details if I needed to. I'm just going to go ahead and apply the change. I'll click Yes to continue. And again, that has now been successful. Now, you might have noticed that the notices still appear in the mailbox, and that's because it needs to be refreshed by closing and reopening. So if I come out of the mailbox now, the next time I go in, you'll see that the notices I actioned have now disappeared. So they're no longer listed here. But to see an audit trail of the changes I made from the e-submissions tasks, I can go into the e-submissions log. And if I click on the Applied Mail tab, you can see the 2 notices that I've just actioned. We can actually see the details from the log as well. So a quick look at what that's done to the relevant employees. So it was employee number 11 and 1. So number 11 had a new tax code. And if I click on the employment tab, you can actually see that the tax code has now changed. And if I drill down to see more details, that change was effective from the 6th of April. So previously, they were on an emergency tax code. It's now changed to the one in the notice. And because this one included some previous pay and tax, if I check the year-to-date values, you can see that those values have also been added to the employee record. And it means that that new tax code and year-to-date values will be used in the next calculation of the employee's tax. For employee number 1, we had that student loan start notice. So looking at the employment tab, into student and postgraduate loans. It's got the start date. Wondering if this is the right employee. Let's just check which employee it was again. Sorry, it was employee 10, beg your pardon. So employee number 10 checking the student and postgraduate loans, yeah, that's where it is. It's put the start date in, 1st of January 2025, and that one has been set up as plan type 1. So deductions will be made from our first pay date after that date. So I'm just going to complete my payroll for month 10. I'm just going to skip ahead to updating the records. And then set my process date to my next pay date. So we're moving a month into the future. So we're now in month 11 for the 28th of February. And we're going to check the mailbox again. And this time, I'm going to show you some notices that tend to arrive in your mailbox towards the end of a tax year, and also share some tips on how you might assign those changes to multiple employees at the same time. So I'm going to go to the e-submission tasks again, as I've switched off the process map. I'll go into the secure mailbox, and I'm going to click new mail. So this month, we have had some new notices. We now have some P9 notices in this example, and I've got 3 of them in total, which have come in towards the end of February, and they're actually effective from the 6th of April, as they are tax code changes relating to the new year. Now, you're not going to see any P9 notices just yet, but they do tend to arrive towards the end of February, beginning of March. So month 11, month 12 is the sort of time you might see these notices. And with any tax code notice, it has an effective from date. So you can get ahead of the game. You can apply the changes early so that they're set up and ready for when that change takes effect. So let's just take a look at the contents of these notices. And because I've got more than one, I'm going to select them all at the same time. So there's a few different ways you can do this. And this is also useful if you need to delete a batch of old notices, if you're starting to use the mailbox for the first time. But with these ones being current, if I wanted to select them all, I could use these little icons at the top. So I can clear any current selection and then swap the selection. You can see it's highlighted all 3 notices, and they can then be opened at the same time. So I can see tax code changes that will take effect from the 6th of April. Or other ways to select multiple notices is to hold down keys on your keyboard. So if you hold down the Shift key and then click on the first and then last notice in a list that you want to select, it will highlight everything in between. Or another way to do it is hold down the Control key on your keyboard and then click on the specific notices you want to highlight. So I do want to open all 3 of these. I can see the tax codes and effective from date. I'll go ahead and click apply. I'm going to click yes to continue. And it says that all 3 of these changes have now been successful. Let's take a look at the other notice that came through. This is a stop notice for a student loan for employee 1. It's asking me to stop from the 1st of February. So let's go ahead and apply that now. And that will stop student loan deductions with effect from that date. And again, to refresh the mailbox, if I want to see that they've disappeared, I can close and then reopen. And you can see that that is now kind of clear. So just to show you what's happened with these employees, let's look at the tax code changes first. Go to the employee record, onto the employment tab. Currently, it still shows the current tax code, because remember, these changes were effective from the 6th of April. But if I click on this plus sign, you can see that the new tax code is ready for the 6th of April. And as soon as my process date is set to the 6th of April or later, that new tax code will take effect. So we've applied it early, but up until that date, it's still going to use the current tax code, which in this case is 1288L. And exactly the same for the other 2. Employee 5, this is what they're on now. This is what they'll be on from the 6th of April. And then we've got an employee with a K code coming into effect again from the new year. So those changes have been made. again, you can check the e-submissions log to see what you've previously applied. Stop notice, similar to the start notice for a student loan, simply enters the end date. So that's now been entered for me. That's going to stop the student loans in my February pay run. So there we have it, the IR Secure Mailbox. We've seen a few different notice types just there. We'll just return to the slides and do a quick recap on what we've just seen. So those were the forms that you can receive in the mailbox. You can open it from the process map or from your e-submissions tasks. Once you've retrieved your new mail, you can select the notices you want to view and click the open button, and that will then display the details, which you can print out if needed, and then you would simply click apply to go ahead and apply those changes. So simple as that. Avoids duplication of effort, don't have to log into the gateway separately, and you wouldn't need to manually enter any of those changes. So that is the primary purpose of the secure mailbox, but I wanted to spend just 5 minutes on the other reason you might use the mailbox, and this is all in relation to company cars that you provide as a benefit in kind. So if you provide company cars and you report these to HMRC on a P11D, you are required to submit a P46 car either in the post or online by the end of the quarter that the car was either provided, withdrawn, or changed. Now, what you might not know is you can record company car details in Sage 50 Payroll, and if you do that, you'll also be able to submit any P46 car forms via the secure mailbox. So I am going to dive straight back into a demo for this one. So first of all, I need to create a car record. So we're just going to create one for employee number 1. You do this on the Cars and Fuel tab, and then you can record a new company car by clicking New Car, and you can work through the New Car wizard to enter the details. So I'm going to start with the car registration. I'm just going to make this up. Make a model of the car. Date first registered. We choose the fuel type. So this one's actually a diesel, RDE2 standard. We'll pop the engine size and CO2 emissions in. And then we can enter details such as list price and the date that car was made available to our employee. So in this case, it was provided to the employee on the 1st of January 2025. So we've got the basic details of the car entered. If I click onto next and then finish, it's now added the car record. And then if I click the P46 car option, you can see that it's flagged that a P46 car is required. And the reason for this is that we're providing this employee with a car available for private use. So we've ticked reason number 1. Now, because we've got this box ticked, it is going to generate a submission if you want to send this online. You can, of course, print the report, submit the P46 in the post if you prefer. But if I click OK to the P46 details and save the employee record, what I can now do is go back to my e-submissions tasks and into the IR Secure Mailbox. And you'll see in this area, HMRC submissions, we do now have a P46 car. There's a record for the new car that we've provided. All you would then need to do is to submit that online to HMRC. So that would be submitted similar to an FPS, so it goes directly to the gateway, and you would get confirmation of your successful submission on screen. Once submitted, you can view the car details within the submitted items area. So I'm not going to send this one because this one doesn't submit in my simulation. I don't have a live account to submit this to. I just wanted to show you where you can do that from. So yeah, that's P46 cars. It is only required if you record your benefits on a P11D. If you're payrolling company car benefits, the company car details are included in the FPS instead. So you don't need a P46 car if you're payrolling the benefit. So a quick reminder of how that all worked. On the Cars and Fuel tab, you select New Car to enter the car details, and then P46 car to complete the P46 form and tick the relevant box. Once you've done that and you've ticked P46 car required, in your secure mailbox, you'll have a submission pending from the HMRC submissions area. So you would simply select that and then submit it to HMRC. And if you want to read more about recording car details and submitting P46 cars, I've linked to our support guide in the handout. So that's pretty much it for the demos, but I want to finish the webinar by sharing some of my top tips around using the inbuilt secure mailbox. So top tip number one is that it is possible, as you saw in that demo, to select multiple notices in order to apply them all at the same time. So a few different ways you could do that. You can use the clear and swap buttons if you need to highlight everything within the folder. You can hold Control and click on individual notices that you want to select at the same time, or you can hold the Shift key and click the first and last notice in a section of a list to select that and everything in between. So once you've done that, you can view all of the details at the same time and apply the changes if it's a recent notice. If it's an old one, so you've just started using the secure mailbox in Payroll, maybe you've got old notices in there that you've already actioned, you can multiple select them and you can delete them that way. Top tip number two is that you can apply tax code notices as soon as you receive them. So they are now date sensitive, and particularly when you get the P9 notices through towards the end of the tax year, you can apply them straight away so that that's done and out of the way, and they won't be used in any tax calculations until that effective from date. For other types of notices, maybe student loan start and stop notices, that will record the start or stop date, so those changes will take effect from those dates as well. Tip number three, if you find that the notices are still showing in the secure mailbox after you've applied or deleted them, first thing to try is to close and reopen the mailbox, as that will then refresh it and it should remove any applied or deleted notices. And you can see the ones that you've applied in your e-submission log if you ever need to look back on those. Which was a bit of a spoiler for tip four. Check the applied mail folder in your e-submissions log to view notices already applied. So it's the applied mail tab, I should say, and then you can see the full details of the notice if you selected in that list and click on the details option. So hopefully those tips will come in handy if you're a new user or existing user of the mailbox. And that has actually brought us to the end of the presentation. So I haven't seen any questions so far, but if you do have any that you'd like to ask me, now is the time to pop them into the Q&A, and I will come on to those very shortly. I do want to just mention while you're here that we do have other webinars coming up soon, and the next Sage 50 Payroll webinars are all part of a digital badge that you can earn. It's our statutory payments badge, so a series of live webinars all themed on statutory payments such as sick pay, maternity, paternity, and shared parental pay. The way that the badge works is if you attend at least 4 of the 6 sessions plus the quiz to test your knowledge, you'll earn a digital badge which you can access via the Credible system, and that will be yours to keep and to sort of share with whoever you would need to. So I've got the dates and times of those webinars on the slide there, but just head along to our website, sage.co.uk/webinars, if you'd like to sign up. You can also find support from our help centre at sage.co.uk/help, or you can click the help centre icon to access our help content in product. It's a great way to search our knowledge base if you're looking for a specific article. You can also find all of the get in touch options for our support team should you need an extra helping hand. And another fantastic resource is Sage University, sageu.com. So if you want to brush up on your payroll skills, take our e-learning courses or even online certification, just create your free profile at sageu.com and find your way to the Sage 50 payroll training and certifications. So that's about it for the webinar. I will stick around for a few more minutes just in case there are any last minute questions that you'd like me to answer. If you want a copy of the handouts, please do download them before you leave us. And as you leave, when you click that leave button, we will invite you to take our webinar survey. So if you wouldn't mind just spending one moment to complete the survey and let us know any feedback that you have on this session or suggestions for future webinars. We really do read all of your comments and it helps us to continuously improve our webinar service. Also going to send you a follow-up email later today, which will conclude a recording of today's session. So look out for that dropping into your inbox in a few hours' time. So with that said, I'm going to go on to mute just briefly, just to check for any last questions. I will come back to you in a few moments once we're ready to close the webinar down. So I will speak to you soon. Hello again, and thanks to those of you that have stuck with us till the very end there. No questions seem to have come through that need an answer, so we are going to call it a day there. Thanks once again for joining us. Please do consider taking a moment to complete our survey as you exit the webinar. And of course, look out for that follow-up email containing links to our future webinars. It'd be great to see you on the statutory payments badge. But for now, I'm going to say goodbye. Enjoy the rest of your week. Maybe we'll see you again in the future at another webinar. Goodbye for now.